Good morning, Quackhawks. It's going to be a little bit of a noisy one today, but today I wanted to talk about holding on too tight and what it means to adapt to change. Come along with me. So today we're actually going to be talking about Of Mice and Men and the 5th chapter of Mice and Men. There's only 6 chapters, so we're very close to the end of it. And if you haven't had a chance to read it, look how thin this book is. It is ridiculously easy to read. You can do it in one sitting if you really want to. So I strongly suggest, because this day and age, the world that we're living in right now, there's no better time to be reading about the Great Depression and John Steinbeck's view of the world, because I think that he can give us a lot of perspective as to where we are and to where we're headed. And one of the things that he notes when we're talking about Of Mice and Men, we have the character of Lenny. And if you're familiar with Of Mice and Men, you know Lenny and George. Lenny is obsessed with this idea of tending to the rabbits. He really wants to fulfill this one dream in his life. And that's the only thing that he wants. As he thinks about it more and more and more, it's every single thing he does gets him closer to that goal. And so George is like, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to get a farm. We're going to get everything together. It's going to be really cool. Everything's going to work out great. But in reality, things are falling apart. It's the Great Depression. People are starving. People are looking for work anywhere that they can find it. And things aren't going well. And we start to realize that Lenny represents holding on far too tight. At first, he has a mouse in his pocket and he pets the mouse with his finger and then crushes the mouse. Then earlier on in chapter 5, he is holding a puppy and pets the puppy too much and the puppy dies. At the end of chapter 5, we have this horrific scene where he has an interaction with a woman and ultimately he shakes her and breaks her neck. This is a very tragic tale about what it means to hold on too tightly. And the weird thing is that I spent most of the weekend thinking about this concept that maybe in a few weeks, or maybe when summer comes, or maybe in a few months, we'll get back to normal. I remember thinking to myself, I actually had a dream that I was like, and then I'll go to Disneyland and things will be great. And I thought to myself, yeah, we've gone through bad times before. There was a massive recession in 2008. Lots of people lost their jobs. And I thought, yeah, we've gone through rough stuff. So ultimately it will get normal. After 2008, there were 10 years of relatively normal life. But I realized that this situation probably isn't like 2008. And it's a lot more like 2001. In 2001, I was in high school. I was a freshman. And that was when 9/11 happened. I remember thinking to myself on that day that everything changed. The way that we did airports changed. The way that my parents thought about me traveling and leaving changed. The fact that we all had cell phones, that changed. And all of it happened because of this massive event that completely shook up people's ideas of what normal was. I don't think I'm ever going to go back to what Disneyland was before. I think I ultimately have to let go of that concept. And during the Great Depression, there was this idea of the American dream that we still have today. The idea that everyone has opportunity and everyone is making progress and things are going to turn out well if we just get through it. But the reality was, so many people weren't getting through it. So many people had to let go of that dream of something better in order to cope with the fact that there was something real that was happening right now. I think Lenny represents this concept in John Steinbeck's story Of Mice and Men. I think that this idea of holding on too tightly to something when we need to let go and we need to move on ultimately shapes a lot of people's perspective of how they got through the Great Depression. We're entering a time where economically things are going to get worse. We know that there's going to be impacts on the access to food. We know that there's going to be impacts on how much employment there's going to be. And I also have a feeling that the way that we do restaurants and movie theaters and theme parks is going to change moving forward. And ultimately, we have to find a way to let that be okay. So this whole week, I want to take some time to talk about that idea of being okay. Because I think that it's important to remember this phrase, not okay can be okay. All of us are going through something right now. We're going through it together. We're coping with it. We're wrestling with it, and we're trying our best. And guess what? It's not okay. A lot of it really, really sucks. And if we find a way to accept that, maybe we can also let it go. But I find a lot of us are sitting there waiting for the day when things get back to normal. There are people out in the streets begging for an opportunity for a world to come back that is gone. I think it's important to notice that a lot of people are protesting not so that they can go back to work, but so that other people can work for them. And the amount of expectation and privilege that's in that. I want to go have somebody else cut my hair. Well, what if those people don't feel safe? You can't force those people to go back to work. The world has to change. And ultimately, the same thing happened during the Great Depression. A lot of people had to change the way that we did work. We had to change the way that we valued humanity. Ultimately, we need to start advocating for ourselves as human beings. Our world is not an economy. It's not just a matter of making more money or making less money or living the American dream. Our world, and I know that this is a meme, is a society. It's about people. We're all in this together. And we have to find a way to make sure that people come out of this on the other end better than we were before. So right now, not okay can be okay. But let's find a way to make it better by letting go. With that being said, snap your claps, flap your jacks. Don't forget to yell quack. Quack!